Hey YouTube, what is up? Now that the ban list has finally dropped and the format has solidified a little bit, I think it's time for a top 10 of the decks that I think are going to be most relevant this format. Didn't even intend for it to be 10 decks actually, I just made a list and it happened to be 10 once I counted it, so top 10. First off, I have Metal Foes. It's a splashable pendulum engine which is compatible with many different decks. Heck, I even made a Monarch variant that was actually pretty dangerous. Though Kieran getting limited does hurt the deck a little bit, most people just opted to put the Clee engine in to bring out Infinity turn 1, and if you're really lucky, you can put Crystal Wing right next to that Infinity. I've had that happen to me. It's hard to play out of a hard negation of a monster effect and a hard negation of pretty much anything else. And if you consider the support that's coming out in Invasion of Venom in the form of Metal Foes Alcahest and the rare Metal Foes and the Metal Foe Quick Play Poly, the deck is actually going to be pretty broken once that set drops. And there's some new Yang Zing support in that deck as well, so the Yang Zing Metal Foe variant is going to see a lot more play once Invasion of Venom comes out. I think the deck has some possibilities now, but basically once that set drops in November, that deck is going to explode. That's the way I see it. Next up is Cosmo, and it seems as though any TCG exclusive is absolutely immune to getting any hits that actually matter. Or if a TCG exclusive does get hit, they just unlimit a card that helps the deck in some other way. Cosmo is a prime example of that, so is BA. Dark Destroyer to 1 and E-Tele to 1. It does hurt the deck's consistency, it does hurt the OTK potential, but what are we gonna do? I don't know, I guess I'll just put a third Allure of Darkness in my deck now and add Gold Sarcophagus. I mean, they limited Dark Destroyer, then put a card to 3 which can guarantee Dark Destroyer to hand if you have Cosmo Town. So they're really not hurting the deck that much. All they're doing is literally stopping the OTK potential. You can't double E-Tele Farm Rail Dark Destroyer for game anymore, but the deck is still very dangerous. The fact that they still even have one 3k untargetable floating beat stick that pops monsters on summon is pretty nuts. And the deck still has a ton of negation thanks to cards like Dark Lady and cards like Cyber Dragon Infinity, which you can just go into with 2 Forerunners. So all in all, Cosmo is still a very dangerous deck, but I think it takes a little more caution when you're playing the deck now. You can't immediately go Dark Destroyer every turn because you only have one, so you have to be careful about how you loop it to make sure that you can always recur it and get it back to hand. Next up is PK Fire, or BAPK, whatever you want to call it. It's another TCG exclusive that got a slap on the wrist in the form of Beatrice getting put to 1 and having Sir getting put to 1 as well. The deck still has a ton of power, and one Beatrice only made it so you really don't have to go up against 2 Beatrice turn 1. The deck can also main deck Floodgates like Anti-Spell, and the deck is getting more support soon in Invasion of Vengeance, just like Metal Foes is getting new support in the form of a Phantom Knight's rank up magic that comes out alongside the new Dark Requiem Dragon, which can target any monster your opponent controls and gain its attack, reduce that monster's attack to 0, and it can negate any of your opponent's monster effects. Then you destroy their monster and special summon an XYZ monster from the grave, and the only stipulation for this effect is that you have Dark Rebellion as material, so all you have to do is make Breaksword, pop Breaksword, bring out Rebellion, steal your opponent's monster, rank up, and then just wreck. So the deck has a lot of potential. It's going to get even better once Invasion of Venom drops. It's basically going to focus more on the Phantom Knight side than the Burning Abyss, but it's still definitely going to run the Burning Abyss engine. You would never not run 3 Dante in that deck. And the next deck is Merlantians/Water. The deck has been pretty much consistently rogue for the last couple of formats, and I really think it's going to come into its own this format. As it stands, the deck can have a Rip 4 opening turn play, which is pretty broken. Your opponent starts with 2 cards in hand. That's really hard to play out of unless they have some kind of deck that like lives in the graveyard, but I've had that Rip 4 happen to me and I could not play out of it anytime it's happened to me. And if you consider the fact that Treat Toad is also coming out in Invasion of Venom or Vengeance, whatever you want to call it, this deck is going to be nuts once it can actually spam Bahamut Shark to bring out Treat Toad. I think the deck actually has the potential to put 2 Treat Toad on board turn 1 because we in the TCG still have Norden, which is something that the OCG doesn't have. So the fact that you can just make a Water level 4 that special summons a Water level 4 and then XYZ into Bahamut Shark to special summon Treat Toad, that is actually very broken. So once Treat Toad actually comes out, I think this deck is going to be a lot more viable and see a lot more play because it's basically going to be main decking a better version of Cyber Dragon Infinity. And the next deck is an archetype that I absolutely love. I love the GX era, so I think you can guess it. This deck is Heroes. It's going to see a lot of play, believe it or not. In the OCG, we've been seeing Treat Toad Heroes topping a lot because a first turn board of Dark Law, Traptrix Rafflesia, and a Treat Toad is almost impossible to play out of. I really do think this deck is going to see a lot more play in the TCG because, like I said before, we still have access to Norden, which is going to make rank 4 water plays a whole lot easier, which means you can guarantee Treat Toad. All Heroes need to do really is Instafusion for Norden to bring back Bubbleman, or Tin Goldfish to bring out Bubbleman, make Bahamut Shark go into Treat Toad, and then just pop Dark Law up right next to it. In case you didn't know what Treat Toad does, because I mentioned Treat Toad in the last deck as well, it negates any spell, monster or trap card, and then it takes that card that your opponent activated and sets it on your side of the field. You basically have the ability to steal combo pieces from your opponent at any time you want. It's not the first effect that's activated, you get to choose. It really is better Cyber Dragon Infinity. Next up, I'm just going to quickly put it in Blue Eyes. We knew this deck was going to be meta relevant. It won Worlds, and after the ban list where the deck didn't get hit, it's at full power technically speaking. So of course Blue Eyes is still going to be very dangerous this format. Once other decks come out in the future though, like ABCs, I think Blue Eyes is going to have a run for its money. But for now, Blue Eyes really is one of the top decks in this format, and it's really surprising to say that because I don't think those are words that have been uttered for maybe the last decade. I mean, Blue Eyes was very powerful really early on in Yu-Gi-Oh, but the fact that we're actually seeing it being played now competitively and tier 1 at that is actually pretty cool. And next up is Demise, and though there are many decks that use this card in their playstyle, it doesn't really vary all that much, so I don't think I need to name every variant. I'm just going to call it Floodgate.deck because that's really what it is, just a ton of main deck floodgates and normal summoning one monster and then passing, something we all assumed really would be killed by the ban list by now. And as it stands, it's here to stay for a couple months, so it's going to be very dangerous still. And as I said before, this deck is just essentially a bunch of floodgates that lock you out of playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And regardless of whether or not you consider it to be a degenerate deck, it is still a serious competitor in the upcoming meta, so that's why I decided to list it. Dark Lords is a deck that I've gone over a lot in the past, so I'm not going to explain it too much, but I think a brief overview is needed. So thanks to the new support that will be dropping in Destiny Soldiers, this deck has gotten the capability to become tier 1 almost overnight with its new in-archetype Raigeki Break, Pantheism, Rhoda, Monster Reborn, and Change of Heart. Also, when you pair this deck up with Christia, you can lock most other decks out, and if you use Athena and Valhalla Hall of the Fallen, you can burn your opponent for 4k in one turn like it's nobody's business. The only thing is this deck tends to brick more than Domain Monarchs, so unless you can find a very stable variant, it's going to be a little tougher to play. I've seen people main decking Allure of Darknesses at 3, along with 3 trade-in to try and overcome its bricking capability, but even then you can have some rough hands. This deck really does thrive by being in the graveyard, and unless you can get most of your cards there to use cards like Superbia, it's going to be a tough play. Cyber Angels tied with Herald of Perfection is a deck that has seen a resurgence as of late thanks to the Cyber Angels release in the TCG alongside Ritual Sanctuary. Last format, Heralds saw some play, but thanks to Monarchs and decks like that, there was just too many things for them to negate, and eventually that left you with no field and no hand, and then you got OTK'd. This format has slowed down now though, and more broken Ritual support has come out and kind of kicked this deck into overdrive. Cards like Ben 10 just help this deck so much, and Cyber Angel Ritual works ridiculously well in tandem with Ritual Sanctuary, allowing you to prevent any destruction and then get a search on top of that if you wanted to is actually really good. I still don't think this deck is tier 1 completely, but I think it is very relevant. This format is going to see some play. I consider it rogue now. I really am interested to see how well it plays once something like ABC comes out, because there are so many things you have to negate with that deck, otherwise you just lose your monster. So it's going to be interesting to see how that deck does, and as it stands right now, I'd say Cyber Angels is a very solid rogue deck, much like Mermail. And lastly, what format would be complete without a $30 dot deck? And now that Monarchs is out of the way, ABCDI is here to take up the mantle, and boy oh boy is this deck going to shake some things up. First of all, there are 2 variants of this deck. There's the rank 4 spam, which relies on Gold and Silver Gadget, as well as Photon Thrasher to spam the board with rank 4 monsters, and then there's the ABCDI version, which kind of tries to open up with Cyber Dragon Infinity and ABC Dragon Buster turn 1. Now it's hard to say which of these is going to succeed most in the TCG, because on one hand the OCG has cards like Exciton Knight and Outer Entity Azathoth, which can be used to protect your ABC Dragon Buster, and this kind of gives the rank 4 version a leg up in the OCG, but here in the TCG we still have access to Norden. It really is kind of a crapshoot as to which one is going to be superior in the TCG. We have the ability to make rank 4 monsters a lot easier, even though we might not have the best rank 4 monsters, so it's tough to say whether or not the rank 4 version or the ABCDI version is going to be better here in the TCG. Now either way, regardless of which one is superior, that deck is definitely going to be tier 1 here in the TCG, so it is definitely something to keep an eye out for. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and if you liked it, don't forget to follow me on Twitter @Schwabs or like my Facebook page to see when I post these videos, and if you really enjoyed it, don't forget to click subscribe because it's free, it's fun, and I'll see you guys in the next one.